Hello everyone, myself Darshil, we are Group 8 and today we are going to present on the book The Unusual Billionaires written by the renowned investor and author Saurabh Mukherjee. Next slide. Most of us know Rahul Dravid as one of the India's greatest batsmen. People admire him not because he scored the fastest centuries, but because he was consistent match after match, year after year, he delivered whenever the team needed him. Now imagine two investors. One keep buying different companies every year, hoping to find the next multi-bagger. The other invests in a business that perform like Rahul Dravid, steady, disciplined, and consistently growing over the years. Who do you think creates more wealth in the long run? The answer is usually the second investor. This graph tells us the same story. If someone had invested in companies like Asian Paints or Page Industries, their investment would have multiplied many times more than the overall market. This was not because these companies had one lucky year. It was because they consistently delivered strong performance over the years. So the lesson from this is long-term consistency beats short-term success. Next slide. Now let us understand this idea through the coffee can philosophy. The concept comes from America in the 1980s. People used to keep their money in coffee can and store them away for years without touching them. The same principles apply to investing. Instead of constantly buying and selling stocks, you can carefully select a few outstanding companies. Simply hold them for very long time. Why? Because over time, because over the time, wealth creation follows the power of compounding. Initially, all companies may look similar, but as years pass, a handful of exceptional business pull far ahead while the most other fall behind. If we keep selling our in winners too early or frequently changing our portfolio, we interrupt this compounding process. That's why the coffee can approach believes that patience is just as important as stock selection. Now I'll hand over to Mokshil.
Yes, thank you, Darshan, for a warm welcome. Uh, my point is there are many companies in the Indian stock market, and we have to select very few companies out of them in order to earn greater returns, in order to earn compounded returns over a period of time. As my partner said, that there are many companies to trade and buy, but if we only select a few companies and analyze them very critically and we buy them, then in the long term, we could earn much greater and much compounded returns. In this book, the author has given three main points to just filter out the rest of the companies which are not good working for us. For example, he has given the market cap of that particular company should be greater than 100 crores. He thinks that 100 crores is a baseline for any company for a market cap. Uh, so it is the first filter for the author. The second is the revenue, 10 percentage revenue growth. Actually, he first wanted to take 15 percentage because of 14.5 percentage of nominal GDP growth. But zero companies were there at 15 percentage revenue growth over 10 years of time. So he narrowed down to 10 percentage revenue, and the third filter was 15 percentage ROCE, which indicates that how the companies efficiently allocate and on from their assets and non-core assets into the business. So these three filters filtered out just eight companies out of 1,500 listed Indian companies, and which is next to impossible, and it's just 0.2 percentage out of the 1,500 companies. So let's take a look about this eight companies. The first company is Asian Paints, then Astral Poly, Berger Paints, ITC, Marico, Page Industries, HDFC Bank, and Axis Bank. We can see that there are two competitors also, Asian and Berger Paints, and HDFC and Axis Bank. They both compete against each other, but yet they came into the top 8 out of 1,500 companies. They demonstrated that it is very much possible to deliver sustained growth without compromising on long-term profitability. 99.8 percentage of companies failed to enter into this criteria, but these eight companies just did the next to impossible thing. So let's look at some reasons that why these eight companies are outstanding out of the 1500 companies which are listed. The author thinks that these are the one of few of the main reasons for their greatness and for their great successes. The first was the laser focus on the core. Their focus was solely on their core business, and rather than just rendering around another line of businesses. They just focused on core in ups and downs, and especially in their downs, they just focused on their core business without even looking at their competitors or without even looking at their other lines of business. So by a laser focus on the core, they have made into the greatness portfolio, which the author describes. The second was the deepening competitive advantage. It was the IBAS framework to widen the gap between them and their competitors. Their competitive advantage were huge. So it was very a great opportunity and a great feature of this particular eight companies to enter into this top eight out of 1500. And the third was sensible capital allocation. As the author said in ROCE, that the company must have a good capital allocation system and good returns must be generated from their particular capital allocated. Uh, and yeah, this eight companies greatly focused on capital allocation and proved that it is very possible if you focus on the main core, the competition around you, and your capital. And you can be into 0.2 percentage of out of 1500 companies. So yeah, so I would now like to hand over to Jeet for further presentation.
Thank you, Mokshil, for welcoming me. Uh, True corporate greatness is rarely about rapid, flashy moves. Elite companies prefer compounding capital right inside their core competence. Look at Asian Paints. Starting from 1942, instead of jumping into hot, trendy industries, they steadily built depth. Rural expansion in 1950, early computerization in 1970, color tinting technology in 90s. Every money doubled down their core strength. Contrast with the competitor like Jensen and Nicholson. In 1990, they diverse capital into unrelated sectors like hotels and financial services. The result, they lost focus, lost operational ground, and ultimately surrender massive market shares. The lesson, long-term market dominance come from mastering your core business, not spreading yourself thin. Mokshil, can you change the slide? Now, to understand how companies protect their profit for decades, we use economist John Kay's IBAS framework. It defines sustainable competitive advantage through four pillars. First, innovation. Second, brand and reputation. Third, architecture. And fourth, strategic asset. First, innovation, superior product, supply chain technology, and operational efficiencies. Brand reputation, the trust and emotional connection that allows the company to charge premium prices from their customer. Architecture, the internal network of relationship with employees, suppliers, and distributors. And then fourth, strategic asset, monopolies, regulatories, licenses, or captive natural resources. Moksil, change the slide. Now, when we apply IBAS framework to industry, industry, we see how different strategic bets create lasting moats. Asian Paints combine early innovation with powerful architectures. They develop IT framework in the 1970s for supply chain efficiency and hired top talent starting in 1969 to build unshakable dealer loyalty. Berger Paint targeted dealers' profitability through innovation, pioneering color tinting machines in 1996 to cut dealers' working capital while reinforcing their brand with aggressive ad spend at 6.6% of sales. Marico built its moat through organization architecture, through using radical empowerment where authority is based on role critically, not seniority. Product and ad campaign can be copied by anyone with capital, but complex supply chains and dealer loyalty and organizational structure, those are nearly impossible to duplicate. So yeah, that's all. Now I will like to hand over to Josh.
Hello everyone, my name is Josh Modi. My topic is architecture. What is architecture? Architecture represents the unique system of relationship a firm builds with its employee, supplier, distributors, and customers. Now we will take some company as an example. Our first company is Asian Paints. Asian Paints cultivates an egalitarian, high-performance work culture that empowers professional manager rather than depending on family, promotes promoters, builds deeply loyal, direct relationship with a massive tier of leaders. Cutting out to the control the supply chain, maintains absolute board independence, allowing strategic decisions to stay diverse from short promoter runs. Now our second company is Marico. Marico transitions employee relation from an old school commodity trading mindset to a modern consumer focused FMCG culture uh, and empowering workspace where professional leadership builds deep trust with co-packager and rural distributors. Now our third company is Page Industry. Page Industry forms an exclusive, rock-solid, multi-decade partnership with Jockey International, driven by the Geneval family, established a highly disciplined, vertically integrated manufacturing and distribution architecture across Bangalore and Philippines. Moksil, can you please change the slide? Now, what is self-sustaining cash engine? Uh, a self-sustaining cash engine, a company with dominant market share, deep competitive moats, and high capital efficiency, like these companies, including Asian Plains, Berger, Marico, Page Industries, and Esther Poly, generates excess cash through operational superiority and reinvest it to compound growth. A detailed insight into these companies are available in Moksil. Can you please change the slide? Now, what is rewarding shareholder over habits? Uh, Rewarding the shareholder is defined elite firms employing disciplined capital allocation, focusing on reinvesting in high ROCE operations or paying consistent dividends instead of pursuing reckless diversification. Companies such as Asian Paints, Page Industries, and SDFC creates long-term value through consistent cash flow generation and low debt compounding. Thank you. Then I would like to handle this to Palak.
Okay, so my name is Palak. Now, coming to the last three slides, these slides basically bring together the main ideas that we have discussed throughout the unusual billionaires. Now, the first slide speaks about the flywheel of the unusual billionaires. So, step one says that laser focus on core business. Now, what does this mean? This basically means that the focus should be on the core business, and instead of continuously investing in businesses that are unrelated, that will only cause losses and cause problems to the business. So that should be avoided. The second is deepening the moat. Moat means having a competitive advantage that makes you different from other companies. So, something that makes it difficult for competitors to compete with you is what a moat is. The third step is high operating cash flow. Now, what this means is that you can show high EBITDA, like you can show that in your profit and loss statement there is a lot of profit. But if the cash is not getting generated, if cash is not coming in the hand, that means something is suspicious. So that is what the flywheel of unusual billionaires third step speaks. Step 4 is about sensible capital allocation. Now, what does sensible capital allocation mean? Once the company generates cash, management has to decide what to do with the money, right? They can either reinvest it in the business, they can give shares, they can give the dividend, or they can also buy back shares. Now, making good decisions at the right time is very important for the company. And the fifth step is the judicious reinvestment in the core. Now, what does this mean? Is when you reinvest in the business, it should make sense. Like, the important point is that good management doesn't only know how to make money, but also knows how to reinvest that money in the right sources. Then finally, the company should also know how to build a moat, generate cash, reinvest that money, and again earn from that money. Could you switch to the next slide? Okay, so slide 2 talks about the investor's blueprint, which is industry and management. Now, after understanding how a great business works, the next question is, as an investor, how do I actually identify what is a good company? So, this gives us two things, which is the industry dynamics and the management quality. Industry dynamics basically means, do they have high value added products? Are they low capital intensive, and how are they insulated from macroeconomic cycles? Now, being insulated from macroeconomic cycles is one of the most important parts. Like, you are able to survive both low cycles and high cycles without a lot of issues. Low capital intensity means the company creates a lot of value from its inputs, which can allow it to earn higher margins. Now, and being protected from economic cycle again means that you are not heavily affected by economic cycles. Management quality is about, are they focused on the core, or are their intentions pure, right? Because many a times the management tries to do things which are in their benefit, and that results in loss to the company. So the intentions of the management, the focus of the management on the core activities instead of the non-core activities, and clean accounting. They also talk about checking the cash flow from operations to EBITDA, which again goes back to the last slide, which means that are you generating the cash which you are showing in your profit and loss statement? Like, you can show a lot of profits in the company's accounting book, but if there is no cash generation, that means that something is suspicious. Can you switch to the next slide? Now, the investor's blueprint again, which is the moats and discipline. Moats again means that what kind of competitive advantage do you have? We have the IBAS pillars. I stands for innovation, B stands for branding, A stands for A stands for architecture, and S stands for sustainability, right? So you should make sure that your business has some advantage over other businesses, so that you create a competitive moat which makes you different from the other companies and gives you a benefit over the other companies and makes it hard for the other companies to compete with you. Capital discipline means, what does the management do with the money it earns, right? For example, if a company has excess cash, management shouldn't simply use it to make large unrelated acquisitions just because the money is available. Instead, if there are good opportunities, it can reinvest the money into the core business. And if there aren't good opportunities, it can return the excess cash to shareholders through dividend or buybacks. This is what we mean by sensible capital allocation, sorry. So a good company has strong core business, helps it build a moat. The moat helps it create higher returns. Those higher returns generate cash, which it can reinvest, and management can sensibly allocate the cash. So to conclude, I think the main message of the unusual billionaires is that great companies are not created by one lucky decision. They become great by making the right decisions consistently over a long period of time. We should look at the industry, the dynamics, the quality of the management, its ROCE, its cash generation, and how the management allocates that cash. And that would conclude our entire unusual billionaires. Thank you.